Hello and welcome to another session in our teaching series Hidden Facts in Biology. We are still treating the transport system. Now we are going to be looking at transport in plants. The major materials transported within plants include gases such as carbon dioxide and oxygen. We have water, mineral salts, manufactured food, and essential chemicals such as hormones and pigments. The media of transport in plants are plant saps, cell sap, and cytoplasm. The plant sap include the fluids that are situated in the vascular tissues and the latex tubes. And this sap in vascular tissue consists of 98% water and complex mixtures of organic and inorganic solutes. The solutes include nutrients such as sugars, proteins, amino acids, mineral salts, citric acid, and tartaric acid. Some pigments like anthocyanins and flavones can also be found in the solutes. Plant sap have a pH that make them acid in nature. Latex and milky substance which in plant food is found in latex tubes. What is the function of the cell sap? The function of the cell sap is for the uptake of water from the soil by the root hairs, and it is transported to the vascular tissue in the roots. The cell sap also work in the diffusion of gases within the plant body. We'll be looking now at the structures of the vascular bundle. Structure of the vascular bundle. The vascular tissues are grouped together in bundles within the plant body. The vascular tissues of plants are made up of a network of long tubes which are called the vascular bundles. They can also be called the veins in leaves. They consist mainly of the xylem and phloem tissues, but in the root of dicotyledonous plants, a layer of carbium cells exists between the xylem and phloem. Hence, vascular bundles are found in the roots, the stem, and also the leaves of flowering plants. The function of the xylem is that the xylem tissue transports water and mineral salts from the roots to all plant parts, whereas the phloem tissue transports soluble manufactured food to different parts of the plant. Okay, now I will just show you a diagram for you to just have a pictorial view of how the structure of the vascular bundles look like in monocot and dicot. So this is the diagram of the vascular bundles in the stem of monocot and dicot. You can see how it is scattered in that of the monocot, but in the dicot, the vascular bundles, they are arranged in a distinct ring of the stem. So now we'll be talking about translocation briefly. What is translocation? Translocation is the process by which manufactured food substances are transported from where they are manufactured, which is the leaves, to tissues where they are needed. The tissue through which these manufactured food are transported is known as the phloem. So the next question that comes in mind are what substances can be transported or translocated in plants? The substances translocated in plants include sugar, glucose or carbohydrates, oil, resins, fatty acids, proteins or amino acids, alkaloids, which is also known as steroids, and hormones. So what are the functions of this translocated substance in plants? We'll take that now. The functions of these translocated substances include: number one, for the proteins or amino acids. The proteins or amino acids are used for building up new tissues, while for the sugar, glucose or carbohydrates, they provide energy for synthetic process. The oil provides energy also, and The alkaloids, resins, and steroids are protective in function and prevent herbivores from eating the plants, as they are all waste products in plants. Let's take a look at transpiration. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the removal of excess water from plants into the atmosphere in form of water vapor through different parts of the plant shoot. The process of transpiration is carried out through the following plant parts. Number one, we have the stomata in the leaves, and since it is the stomata, it is called the stomata transpiration. That is when transpiration takes place through the stomata. We call it stomata transpiration. Another part of the plant shoot responsible for the process of transpiration is the lenticels in the stem. And since transpiration is taking place through the lenticels, it is called lenticellular transpiration. And the last part of the plant through which transpiration can occur is the cortical of the leaf surface. And thus, this type of transpiration is called corticular transpiration. Of note is that the greatest amount of transpiration occurs through the stomata. That is, stomata transpiration is the greatest amount of transpiration in a plant. There are different factors that affect the rate of transpiration. So now we'll look at the factors affecting the rate of transpiration. Number one, we have light. How does light affect the rate of transpiration? High light intensity results in high rate of photosynthesis and consequently leads to increase in temperature. This will give rise to high rate of transpiration and vice versa. The next factor that affects the rate of transpiration is soil water. How does soil water affect transpiration? The higher the level of soil water, the higher the rate of absorption, and so the rate of transpiration, and vice versa. That is, when the level of soil water is high, the amount of water that will be absorbed by the plant also increases, and this is going to increase the rate of transpiration. The next factor that affects the rate of transpiration is the size of the stomata pores, and the stomata pores affect the rate of transpiration because when the stomata pores opens due to turgidity of the guard cells, transpiration takes place, while flaccidity of the cell causes the guard cells to close, and this prevents transpiration from taking place. The next factor that affects the rate of transpiration is humidity. The higher the humidity of the atmosphere, the slower the rate of transpiration, while the lower the humidity of the atmosphere, the higher the rate of transpiration. We can therefore say that the rate of humidity or the amount of humidity is inversely proportional to the rate of transpiration and vice versa. The next factor that affects the rate of transpiration is wind. The higher the rate of wind, the higher the rate of transpiration, and the lower the rate of wind, the lower the rate of transpiration. That means the rate of wind is directly proportional to the rate of transpiration. When the rate of wind goes up, the rate of transpiration also goes up. And lastly, the other factor we are going to be looking at that affects the rate of transpiration is temperature. An increase in temperature gives rise to high rate of transpiration, while low temperature gives rise to low rate of transpiration. That is, increase in temperature is directly proportional to a high rate of transpiration. Having looked at the definition of transpiration and how it is carried out and the factors affecting it, it is important for us to look at the value of transpiration. That is, The importance of transpiration to plants. The importance of transpiration to plants includes the fact that number one, it removes excess water from the plant. Two, it enables plants to absorb water and mineral salts from the soil. Three, transpiration cools the plant. Four, it facilitates the movement of soil water. Let us take a look at an experiment to show transpiration in plants. Materials required include the bell jar, the leafy plant, polythene bag, plastic sheet, oil layer, droplet of liquid, beaker, glass sheet, and Vaseline paste. In this experiment, we are going to dip a leafy plant or twig in a beaker of water and cover the surface with oil to prevent evaporation of water into the jar. Then we are going to make sure we airtight all joint points and place the setup on a glass sheet with a bell jar inverted over the plant. All joints are going to be greased with Vaseline paste to prevent gaseous water entering into the bell jar. The whole setup will be placed in the sunlight for about 2 to 5 hours. We are then going to have a control experiment. But in the control experiment, we will do the same procedure as we have done. But what we are going to be using is a plant without leaves. If we do this procedure, what we'll be having will be a diagrammatic workup like this. So this is a diagram to show the experiment on transpiration in plants. When you are asked to draw this diagram or when you are asked to talk about an experiment to show transpiration in plants, you should make sure that in drawing this diagram, you don't shade, which is one of the rules in drawing diagrams in biology. You should make sure that your lines do not cross each other, and also you should make sure your diagrams are titled. So now we can see the bell jar. We said that the bell jar is going to be inverted. So then we can see the plant A there, which has the fresh leafy shoot. And we can also see the plant B there, that is the other plant without the shoot, that is the leafless shoot. And that's the layer of oil. And we have the beaker of water also. So this is the experimental setup. And the observation we are going to be having from this experiment goes as thus. In the plants that have the fresh leafy shoot, it will be observed that droplets of liquid will be seen in the inner surface of the bell jar. While for the leafless shoot, there will be no liquid, that is, droplet of liquid will not be seen in the bell jar. So the liquid which will be seen in the fresh leafy shoot is collected and it will be tested with blue cobalt chloride paper, and it will turn pink. When it turns pink, it shows that the liquid droplet is water. And the conclusion in this experiment will be that green plants undergo transpiration. Let's take a look at the mechanism of transportation in higher plants. First of all, I would love to mention that in aquatic, unicellular, and simple multicellular plants, gases enter and leave their cells by diffusion. Water enter the cells by osmosis, whereas manufactured foods and waste are transported by diffusion. So that is the mechanism of transportation in the lower plants. How about in higher plants? In higher plants, that is in flowering plants, which is an example of a higher plant, gas absorption is mainly through stomata in the leaves and lenticels in the stems, while mineral salts are absorbed through the root system. In plants, movement of gases is by diffusion, while the vascular tissues are responsible for transporting water, mineral salts, and soluble foods. I will show you another diagram of the distribution of vascular bundle in the roots and in the stem. And this time is going to be labeled. So we can see the diagram there. When you are asked to draw this type of diagram in exam condition, you should make sure that there's no shading and your labeling should not cross each other. And also, there should be a title in your labeling. So this is the distribution of vascular bundle in the root and the stem. For that of the root, you can see the root hair, and this root hair is what helps in the absorption of water. So there is the piliferous layer, and then we have the vascular bundles too, the phloem and xylem. We know the xylem is responsible for what? The transport of water and mineral salts. Why the phloem is responsible for what? The manufactured food. That is transporting the manufactured food. We can also see the stem there. Labeled are the individual parts of the stem. We see the epidermis, the colecyma, the pits. There's also the vascular bundles present, which are responsible for transportation. You can also see the parenchyma and the endodermis. The phloem and xylem here in the stem perform the same function. The phloem is for transporting manufactured food, while the xylem is for water and mineral salts. Having a look at this diagram, we are going to be talking about absorption of water and minerals in plants. Absorption of water and minerals. Direct contact exists between the soil water and young root hairs of flowering plants. The concentration of cell sap in the root hairs is greater than that in the soil water. This makes it possible for water to pass from the soil into the root hair by the process of osmosis. The cell membrane functions as a selective permeable barrier which allows soil water to pass through into the vacuole of root hairs. And remember, without a selective semi-permeable membrane, osmosis cannot happen. The extra water raises the to-go pressure of the vacuole or reduces the osmotic pressure, thereby forcing water out into the cell walls towards the cortex. A lower to-go or higher osmotic pressure is found in the cell which is next to the root hair cell, and this will make water to pass into it through osmosis. And as a result of this pressure difference, the water absorbed will be able to get to the xylem vessel. So that is the process of absorption of water and minerals in higher plants. So now we will be looking at the transport of water in the xylem tissue. The transport of water in the xylem tissue is due to some processes which are discussed below. Number one, the root pressure and the suction pressure. The difference in osmotic pressure between the cell sap and the concentration of soil nutrients usually creates a root pressure which is most active under the conditions of high humidity and low temperature. The cell sap, being more concentrated, tends to draw up the nutrients, and there is an unbroken column of water between the water in the soil and the water in the leaf, and this unbroken column is known as the transpiration stream. The root pressure cannot account for water rise to the top of very tall plants. Now, when water evaporates through the stomata of leaves, the process known as transpiration, a suction pressure, which is the total force by which the cell absorbs water from its surrounding, is created. By this pressure, the movement of water from the soil to the xylem tissues through the root hairs is achieved. The xylem vessels are capillary tubes, and movement of water through them is via capillary force, which ensures that the water column remains unbroken. This brings us to the next process which helps the transport of water in the xylem tissue. That is the process of capillary action. The upward flow of water through the xylem is by capillary action. The xylem vessels, like mentioned before, extending from the roots to the leaves, forms very fine capillary tube as a result of capillary action, which is due to the attraction between the water molecules and the walls of the xylem vessels. Let's take a look at the next process which helps in the transport of water in the xylem tissue. This is the process of transpiration pool. The continuous flow of water from the roots to the leaves forms the transpiration stream
as we said earlier, the force which causes the upward movement of water to the top of very tall trees is created in the leaf as a result of evaporation through the stomata during the day. This force is known as the transpiration pull. As water evaporates from the leaf cells and as more sugar is produced through photosynthesis, the osmotic pressure in the leaf cells increases with respect to that in the xylem cells. This osmotic pressure causes more water to flow into the leaf cells from the xylem vessels, causing a pull on the water column in the vessels. The overall effect is that water is drawn up into the plant from the soil. So now we have come to the end of our teaching on the transport in plants. Now we are going to be taking some questions, starting first of all from the examples, then to the exercises. So the first example we have here says, which of the following is used to determine the loss of water vapor from the leaves of plants? A. Hydrated copper sulfate. B. Blue litmus paper. C. Red litmus paper. D. Blue cobalt chloride paper. E. Lead acetate paper. The answer to this question is D. Blue cobalt chloride paper. And this is because it is used to test for the presence of water. If the test is positive, the blue cobalt chloride paper is going to turn pink. So our next question, it says, which of the following structures transports water from the roots to the leaves? A. Phloem. B. Cambium. B. Cambium. C. Pericle. D. Xylem. E. Cortez. The answer to this question is D. The xylem. This is because the xylem transports water from the roots to the leaves of a plant. So our next question, it says excessive loss of water from leaves is prevented by the A. Vascular bundle. B. Cortical. C. Midrib. D. Parenchyma. E. Mesophyll. The answer to this question is B. And this is because the corticals of the leaf helps to prevent excess water loss. So our next question, it says the removal of all the phloem tissues of the stem of a plant close to the root system for a long period of time is likely to A. Provide more energy to the roots. B. Accumulate more starch in the roots. C. Cause the underground roots to develop buds. D. Cause the plants to wither. The answer to this question is D. And this is because the phloem is the vascular bundle that helps to transport food materials in the leaves to other parts of the plant. Hence, when we have the phloem removed, the plant is likely to wither. And this is because food materials that is being manufactured in the leaf cannot be transported to other parts of the plant. So our next question, it says the xylem is used for A. Transportation. B. Absorption. C. Transpiration. D. Translocation. The answer to this question is A. Transportation. This is because the xylem is used for the transportation of water and minerals. Of note is that absorption is carried out by the roots in plants, while transpiration is carried out by the leaves, and translocation is carried out by the phloem. So our next question, it says the tissue which carries organic food from site of production to all other parts of the plant is called the A. Carbium, B. Epidermis, C. Phloem, D. Sclerenchyma, E. Xylem. The answer to this question is C. The phloem. This is because the phloem helps to transport manufactured food from the leaves to other parts of the plant. We have come to the end of our example session. Now we'll be taking the exercises. These exercises are taken from our textbook, Hidden Facts in Biology, in pages 154. So these are the various exercises, and the answers to these questions are seen in the answer section of the book, both the soft copy and the hard copy. You can try them and check the books to check if
your answers are correct. Thank you for listening.